Welcome back. Hope you're all doing well. It's Monday morning, and as usually happens on a Monday morning when I don't book anything the week before, I procrastinate a lot. I'm looking for certain things, and just this morning, because of the time of year it is, and the weather, lots of things going on. The loads that I wanted just weren't there. I missed out on a couple, just being a little bit too late, but as I was searching the load boards this morning, looking at all these, I call them scammers, and I call them that for a number of different reasons. Whether it's because they're putting 5,000 loads on the board every 5 minutes, just that they've got that one loadout trailer, and they're listing it with different towns, where it's coming from, where it's going to, and all kinds of different things, and they'll list it over and over and over, just trying to get anybody to take this thing instead of just listing it one time. Or whether you've got the real scammers who are listing loads under other they've hacked into some broker's account and they're listing loads. That happened a lot last week and this morning, and not only they listed the loads, but after a while they were taken down. I don't know if the load board caught them, but they're taken down. They came back up in a different name, and they were taken down again. And this morning they came back up in a different name. So it's very frustrating, very, very frustrating when you're trying, especially when you're an owner and an operator, and you're trying to look at these things on these boards. And there's one load board in particular that just allows way too much of that. And I've called in, and I'm talking about the DAT board. And I like the DAT board. I use it a lot, but they really allow brokers and agents to just run roughshod over everybody on their load board in all kinds of different ways. And then they themselves kind of perpetuate the frustration of the driver. And I'll get into that. But so after looking on the load boards this morning, I thought, hey, it's a good time to make another video on load boards, because it's a question I get asked a lot. And I wanted to just show you what I use. Now, probably at this stage, I use load boards 70% of the time, and well, maybe less than that, maybe 60% of the time. And then the contacts that I've made over the years, I use those a lot of times. But let's get into this, because there are a lot of load boards out there, and just a lot of different ways to look at loads. But if you don't do it effectively and efficiently, you're going to miss out on a lot of loads, because there's kind of a funneling effect. Well, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but there's a way, in my opinion, to look for loads where you can see the most loads to begin with, and then kind of narrow it down from there when you're not seeing what you want. So we will start with a DAT board, and I believe the DAT board is probably lists the most loads, but there's a catch to that, because like I said, well, for instance, I do power only. And so when I look at the power only load board for DAT, I not only see power only loads, but they don't have a category for loadout trailers. If you don't know what a loadout trailer is, that's when a company needs a trailer moved from place to place. They will allow you to use that trailer for a certain number of days. Lots of times they'll pay you some small amount, $250, $500, just depends on what kind of trailer, where it's going. But you can use that trailer like your own for 7 or 10 days or something like that. I do not do loadouts for the most part. To me, it doesn't make sense. But so DAT board does not have its own category for loadout trailers. So what happens when you're doing power only and you look on their load board for power only loads, you get 5 power only loads and 2,000 loadout trailers. It's extremely frustrating, because these people that are listing these loadout trailers are the ultimate scammers. They may have one loadout trailer, they may have 5 loadout trailers, but what they'll do is they'll list that one trailer or that 5, even though the information is, it's going from Houston to Dallas. They'll list it 100 times like that. Then they'll change the towns a little bit to make it seem like you might be closer to get that trailer. They'll list it 100 times like that. And the DAT board does nothing to them. It doesn't, like I said, you're looking for the power only loads. There may be 5, but when you, like for instance, if you guys want to go to, if you've got the DAT, go to Chicago, try to find a power only load and on the DAT board. It's nearly impossible. And the tricks that I use, like I'm near Dallas. So if I look for a power only load in Dallas, I'll bring up 700 or 800 results. Let's just say 700 results. And then 695 of those might be all loadout trailers, and they might be just 4 or 5 loadout trailers that they've listed almost 700 times. So how do you find, and this is a conversation I've had with people at DAT several times, and the customer service people are extremely nice, and they take down the notes and they say, okay, we'll pass it on to the engineer, whatever. Nothing ever changes. So some of the tricks that I use to kind of, sift through that, when you do pull up those results, you can look at them at maybe the highest rates first. But sometimes people don't list their rates on a power only load. So you can list it at, maybe the heaviest, because a loadout trailer is going to be 10,000 pounds. And something with a load on it's going to weigh more. And there's just, you'll have to go through those categories and try to, all the time, and try to figure out which are the power only loads. Because if you're doing this, if you're an owner operator like me and you're trying to find those loads on your phone, you can see 3 loads at a time while you're scrolling. So you can imagine trying to go through 700 loads with your thumb trying to find the right load. So it's very frustrating that DAT allows that to happen. But they not only allow that to happen in the power only category. For instance, back when I was doing my small box truck, I had a specific category I was looking for. And, DAT has 20 or 30 categories that you can choose specifically which one you want. But what they do is, when I was looking for specific loads for my box truck, they would add in like van category and these other categories. And when I called them to complain about it, they said, well, that just gives you more choices. And I said, no, it doesn't. It gives me more, it just makes it more frustrating for me to try to look through all these loads, knowing that I'm not dock height. I can't do these van loads no matter how small they are. And again, DAT board did nothing about it. And it was very frustrating when they add in categories just to make it look like there's more loads for you. Very frustrating. But I do use DAT board all the time. And they're kind of the load board that goes with that. The other top dog out there is Truckstop. Now, I love Truckstop load board because they have their individual categories. They don't try to add anything in there when you're looking for a specific thing. They have a specific category for loadout trailers and a specific category for power only, and they don't mix them all together. However, you still have those scammers that list their loadout trailers and put them in the power only category, but it's nowhere near as frustrating as it is on the DAT board. I've never had to call in on Truckstop about any of that. I called in on Truckstop on some scammers, but Truckstop is very easy to use. And for that reason, on the DAT board, I just have the basic package on that. However, for Truckstop, I do have the professional package on that. And I can see their credit ratings right away, and what the rate on that lane is going for. So I really enjoy using Truckstop. However, I do carry both. And I talk with a lot of people, and I see a lot of times where people say, yeah, I just canceled this DAT board, or I just canceled Truckstop because they have all the same loads. They do not have all the same loads. And when you're talking like Truckstop, I think it's costing me DAT board. I think it costs $40 a month for the basic. If I only book one load a month on DAT board that it wasn't on that truck stop, it's well worth that $40 a month. So even though DAT board is a pain in the butt to use, I do get loads from it all the time that are not listed on Truckstop. So they aren't all the same loads on there. However, when you do have both of those, you pretty much have 90% of the loads out there, because everybody usually posts their loads on Truckstop or DAT board. And when you have both, that's what I'm talking about, that funnel. You've covered the widest area first when you're looking at Truckstop and DAT board. And if you don't find what you're looking for on there, then you start whittling things down and going to specific carriers, load boards. And there are a few other load boards out there that list loads, from people other than just their company. And so the first one I'll talk about, the big boy out there, is Amazon. And I see a lot of people who sign up with Amazon, and it's that age-old thing. You get comfortable with it, you don't want to go anywhere else. But I'm here to tell you, most of Amazon's freight pays under $1.50 a mile. However, they make it super easy. So, most of the time, when you're signed up with Amazon, you have their Amazon Relay load board, and they've got it so streamlined. It's awesome. And the way they pay you is great too. So that, even if it does pay $1.40, there's some advantages to taking an Amazon load, sometimes over something that pays a little bit more. You book it on the app. You know exactly where it's picking up. Yes, for me, for doing power only, I know I'm never going to have to wait. 99% of the time, I roll in there sometimes an hour before my appointment. I pull up to the gate. I don't talk to anybody. I pull up to the gate. There's a screen. They have a camera that sees my truck license plate. They know who I am. I pull up. I stop. Just a few seconds. Not only does it pop up on the screen, but it pops up on my app. Go pick up the trailer in parking spot A1. I roll over there. I pick it up. I do my inspection, all on the app. I roll out. It's the same thing happens. I roll up to the gate. I stop. It tells me have a good day. Boom, I'm gone. And the same thing on the other end. It's super easy. The way they pay you, they do direct deposit. They don't hold out anything, any percentage or anything like that. However, sometimes you're waiting almost 2 weeks for that paycheck. And I've had 2 instances where I've picked up a trailer, I've delivered it, and it's supposed to be time to get paid, and I don't see anything, and they don't send me any emails. And it's extremely frustrating trying to get any answers out of Amazon when they have a button on their app that says call me. They have customer service call you. It's very difficult to understand what they're saying. And so the first time this happened, I didn't get my paycheck. Usually anything you do before Sunday, they pay you the following Friday. So I didn't get the paycheck. I called them, or they called me, couldn't tell me what was going on. I sent emails, finally got an email back saying we're investigating this. Something is wrong with that load. And then 2 weeks later, I finally get paid for that load. Now, if it was a couple $100, it would be not that big of a deal, but it's still a couple $100. But in one instance, it was almost $1,000. So there are advantages to Amazon. However, I choose not to do them every day, because the other loads out there, even though I factor those loads and give up a small percentage in that way, they pay a lot more. But as someone told me one time, we were going to picking up the same load the same day, and we got talking, and he said, yeah, I'll do those Amazon loads for snacks. And I thought that's pretty good. So when you're delivered a trailer, you can find a short Amazon run, get you a little snack, and just do the short runs. They usually pay more, and like I said, they're really convenient, they're really easy. But those long runs, because Amazon doesn't like anybody to keep their trailers overnight, they want a trailer to be picked up and delivered without you stopping. Those long runs, sometimes they schedule them kind of weird when you do have those, have to do a 10-hour, and they just don't pay well at all, and they're not worth it most of the time. So that's Amazon. Now, the other kind of load boards out there, there's one called 123 Load Board. Now, I have found that every single load on 123 Load Board I've already seen on Truckstop and DAT Board, so I don't even go on there. Truck Smarter, here's another one of the, this is one that makes absolutely no sense to me. And I see a couple of people that they've sponsored. And Truck Smarter is absolutely useless, especially for power only, but it's basically the heavy and cheap companies like JB Hunt, Schneider, the big mega carriers that are listing their loads on there, and they somewhat try to make it convenient for you. You can link your accounts and see all of them in one place. And I tried that for a while, and I found out that those mega carriers, they do list loads on there, but they don't list all of their loads on there. So it was kind of just, it was extremely inconvenient if I go to Truck Smarter and check the loads, and then I have to go to each, because JB Hunt might put some loads on there, but then if you go to their website, even though you're connected through TruckSmart, you go to their own load board, you see other loads that don't come through somehow, some way. And 99% of the freight on TruckSmarter, cheap and heavy. And I know there's a couple of guys out there who are sponsored by them, and I've been through that myself, and I'll go into that in a minute. But Truck Smarter, absolutely useless as far as I'm concerned. But there's different strokes for different folks. I would try them all and just see what works for you. They may have the exact load you want because you're in the exact right place. You just never know. Landstar has one of the best load boards out there. I worked for Landstar for a while, and I love their load board, its functionality. But Landstar lists their loads for the most part on Truckstop and DAT board. But you can go, if you're signed up with Landstar, you can go onto their load board and see the loads that are available to you, and they are sometimes different than what Truckstop and DAT board are. I go to Landstar quite a bit. Now, here's some more that I just would steer clear of. And it's like that Amazon thing. A lot of people, they jump on the first thing they see, they get what they think is a decent load, and they just stay with it. And even though it doesn't pay very good, they get in that comfort zone. But Uber, Convoy, which ain't around anymore, and Coyote, and there's one other one I can't think of right now, but these are the bottom of the barrel as far as rates go, and as far as how they treat you, and the complications with the loads. I've done work for all of them, and these people, if you don't know Convoy, it was owned by these billionaires, the same guy that owns Amazon, and then Bill Gates, and so their model was they're going after all the cheap freight, the convenient freight, normally kind of like the dedicated accounts that they can get for what they think is a good price. And then they can, they sucker in these people that want these local runs with a couple of stops on it. And of course, Convoy went out of business because the contract rates that they got on these things, no driver wanted to drive for that, even though they're real convenient rates. And that's kind of what Uber and Coyote do. They try to just get the drivers to take these loads for just peanuts. And for the most part, I stay away from them. I did get one good load for Coyote, but that's been several years ago. Other than that, I I I say I stay away from them. I still check them. A lot of times I check them just to see if there's one load that is convenient for me and it pays well. I don't just completely ignore them. I just most of the time I look at them. There's nothing there. 99% of the time. So, um, yeah, there are lots of other load boards out there, and like I said, Truckstop and DAT board has 90% of the freight on those already. So start with those. You look at both. I just keep both of them up and going and refreshing, and so when you start dwindling down, the last things I check every day, if I'm not finding what I'm looking for, are the individual shipper or individual load boards. And what I mean by that is also I'll check Swift, I'll check JB Hunt, I'll check Schneider, CH Robinson, TQL, all those companies out there, whether they're brokers or um, direct shippers or what have you, or mega carriers, they all have their own, most of the time, individual load boards. And I've got, like I said, TQL. I've got I think I've got probably 30 on my phone. And so it doesn't. If you've already signed in, you go in there. It takes a second. You've already got your parameters in there. You look at it and you see the same old stuff. But every once in a while, like JB Hunt, who has the worst rates out there and the worst system there is as far as power only goes. Yeah, I just hate it. But every once in a while, they have a load that they need to just get picked up and dropped, and they pay a good rate on it lots of times, especially if it's a recovery load. So you just can't ignore those little sites. But um, as I've said before, even though I'm using these things on daily, I mean, every few minutes I'm looking at Truckstop or DAT or something else. Um, I'm always, over a period of time, you build up your client list and people you've done several loads for, and you start knowing where these little dedicated runs are coming out of, and especially if you kind of stay in your area, and it starts to become a mental thing where you look on load board and you think, wait a minute, I'm in Houston. I know these two carriers have these loads every day. Let me see if they've got one today. And you just start. What I'll do is if I get in an area that I know pretty good and there's just nothing popping up on the load board, I'll send out a few emails, and lots of times I'll get a hit and say, hey, yeah, we got one coming out in just a few minutes or something like that. So I know kind of the areas, not Dallas so much. I try to stay out of Dallas, but Houston, San Antonio, Shreveport, in that kind of triangle. Over the years, I've gotten to know a lot of people that move stuff around in there. And so I'll, when I'm not getting what I want, if the freight market's like it is today, I'll send out a few emails. Maybe I'll get a hit, maybe I won't. But that's the way I do it. I work with the two big boys first at the top of that funnel, and then I'll just kind of work my way down from there. And that way, with those two big boys, I'm getting most of the loads I want to see first, because that's where most of them are listed. And then I'll work my way down to the Amazons and the Landstars and some of the better companies, and then the individual broker boards from there. And it works out for me. Um, Over the years, like I said, I've built up a sort of client base, and there are sometimes a couple of weeks at a time where clients say, hey, I have this load every day, you want it? And I'll jump on that, and I don't have to worry about that load board. But if you're trying to do it the most efficient way, because this almost as much as the paperwork, this finding your own loads, and booking your own loads and negotiating, I find that some new people just don't want to have anything to do with it. They don't want to get on the phone and barter with somebody over a rate, and they don't want to have to refresh that load board all the time, and it's just frustrating for them. But it's a learning process. There's that curve when you first start doing it. It's frustrating to think, man, are there other load boards out there? Am I missing something here? And you're not finding the loads you want. And in the way I'm talking about doing it, you're finding 90% of the loads out there, and then you're working your way down to see what you might have missed, what they didn't post on the big boy load boards, and it makes it more efficient, and it's easier to, it brings that learning curve down, and you can find the loads you want faster and start building your client base and maybe find that dedicated route if that's what you want to do. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm going to show you real quick. This is God damn it.